Hello beef lovers, welcome to another edition of Christmas Cooking with Houston and Heidi. We have the privilege of being staff members out here at the beautiful Lazy T Ranch in Ten Sleep, Wyoming. Today we've got a appetizer. That's right.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a breakfast dish, which is Aebleskiver's, and that is a Danish, basically the way my mother-in-law described it to me, it's a Danish pancake ball. Nobody really knows what the origin of it is, but it sort of means pastry fried. But they're little pancake balls, and you can, the recipe that we're gonna do today is the same recipe that you could do for our breakfast with your family, and you just cook them. It's uses the same pan, the batter is the same ingredients. Just what we're gonna do is we're gonna add to it some beef in the center, whereas normally if you were making it for a breakfast, you could take a blueberry and put in the center of it, you could take a Hershey's Kiss and put in the center of it. We're going to season a Sierra cut of beef, and then we're going to put that in the center of it, and then we're going to serve it as an appetizer with a raspberry adobo sauce. So there are a few things that we're going to go over and need for this recipe. We've got our ingredients here for our Aebleskivers themselves. These are the ingredients. Who's your sister sauce? You can use like a cranberry jelly if you can find it in your store. We chose red raspberry jam that we're going to use, and then adobo chipotle chilies. We're going to use a Lazy T 21-day dry-aged Sierra cut of beef, and we'll talk more about that shortly. We're going to use some Kent Rollins original seasoning to season our Sierra cut with in order to prepare it for the, and then you'll need an Aebleskiver pan. You see these pans more often than what you would think, and I think a lot of people think that they're for cornbread or something, but you can tell them because they have this sort of rounded dome at the bottom, and there is a certain number, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we start cooking, but this is the size pan that seems to be the easiest to manage when you start cooking your Aebleskivers. So, and then you need a device for turning the Aebleskivers. You can use, most people use a fondue fork, but we are going to use a piece of barbed wire. So a few things that you want to think about while you're doing this is, first of all, you're going to use eggs. For the recipe that we have posted, we're using 2 large eggs, and you separate the egg whites out and set them to the side. A few things on that you want to do. You're going to want to whip those egg whites, and so you really need to make sure that your bowl doesn't have any residue, most especially oily residue in the bottom of it, because that'll make it more challenging to whip the egg whites to a peak. When my mother-in-law taught me how to make this, she made me whip those egg whites using a whisk. That wasn't a whole lot of fun, and so we're going to use a blender for today. Now, another thing though that helps is cream of tartar. If you need to sprinkle a little bit of that in your egg whites to help. But probably the thing that works the best is that your egg whites and your buttermilk, for whenever we're making the batter, all need to be, if you can, at room temperature. That makes it easier for or quicker for the egg whites to peak, and also it's better for the batter. All right, so we've got our Sierra cut of steak, and we've picked this because see how thin it is, and we don't have a lot of space in the center of our Aebleskiver as we're turning it over. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some of our friend Kent Rollins' original seasoning. This stuff is amazing, and we're going to season both sides of it, and then we're going to sear it in that really old cast iron skillet over there on the stove for about 3 minutes on each side. And then when we're done, we're just gonna set it over to the side and let it be cooling while we're putting the rest of our ingredients together. All right, so this is, of course it depends on the thickness of your cut of beef, but we've got our skillet on medium, high. It's about this thick. We've done it 3 minutes on each side. So we're just gonna, we gotta get a little bit of this in here. But then we're gonna set it right here, and we're going to let that rest while we put the rest of our recipe together. All right, so look on the website for all the ingredients. We have all of our dry ingredients in the bowl. We're going to add our butter, and we're going to add our buttermilk. We're gonna stir all that together, and then when we're done, we're gonna fold in our egg whites. And if you don't know about your egg whites, you can tell that they're probably the way you want them to be when they peak, which basically just means if you put something in and you pull it up, these little peaks appear. And so if your egg whites are peaking, they're probably okay for this recipe. We're folding in our egg whites. This is 2 large egg whites, and there's sugar, salt, baking soda, baking powder, and flour. And you can also use this recipe for pancakes. We don't want to completely undo the light and fluffiness that we've done with our egg whites. So we're going to stop with that right there, get our Aebleskiver pan warmed up, and get our beef cut. Okay, so we are going to go with a, that's the wrong burner. We're going to go with a medium to low heat. This pan is not all that large. So low to medium. And because it's not very large, you really have to sort of get it centered over the flame, or what you'll find is one of your cups won't cook as fast as your others and it throws your timing off. So while we're letting this warm up, we're gonna go over here and cut our steak. All right, so we've got our Sierra cut. What we like about this is all of the Lazy T beef is 21-day dry aged. So we took a really nice cut of beef, seasoned it with Kent Rollins' original seasoning, and then we seared it on each side for about 30 minutes. And now what we want to be sure and do, so when you're looking at this, you have to remember this is in an hors d'oeuvre and it's in a pastry that's light and fluffy. So what we want to do is we want to make sure when we're cutting these little chunks that they're tender and chewy, and a lot of times that has to do with cutting along the grain, across the grain. So in this, you can see the grain of the beef is running this way. So we're going to cut it this way. All that juice coming out of there. And that is, and you can do it as well done or tender as you want, but we like at the most probably a medium rare. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut this into little bitty small pieces, just like that. And then we'll put it inside our Aebleskiver while it's cooking. A couple things we want to talk about right quick. When you're cutting this, again, because we're putting it inside of an hors d'oeuvre and you really want to get the tenderest part, you'll notice we cut this across here. We will intentionally not use either end, just so that we'll take those and sort of set them to the side. And that way, this beef that we're cutting from the inside that we're going to put inside the Aebleskiver will have that tender exposed part of the beef on all 4 sides. And then when we're done with our Aebleskiver, we're going to take this Borson basil and chive cheese that's right here. We're going to sprinkle it on top, and then we're going to put our raspberry and adobo peppers and Worcestershire sauce. We're going to drizzle that on top. So this is, for me, the most challenging part, and that's just getting the Aebleskiver balls to a proper presentation. And so we've got a little bit of vegetable oil that we'll put in each one of these. You can use shortening, you can use unsalted butter, but the idea is to take you a spoon and always start in the same one and end in the same one. We're going to fill that until it's just about even with the top. The idea would be that by the time we get all of these full, and I'll go all the way around and then end in the middle, the first one is almost ready to start what I call the pull or the turn of the Aebleskiver. So we're going to give that a few minutes, and then we're going to come back with our handy dandy sharp pointed turning device, and we're going to start turning these up just a little bit each one, and then we'll insert our bite of steak in the center and finish the balls. Idea here is we're going to put this in here and sort of try to get our Aebleskiver to turn loose, and just a little bit like that. My barbed wire is probably not the best device because when I pull it out, it's bringing some of the batter with it, but it looks cool around the campfire. That one is a little bit too done already. And so once we've got them to that point, we're gonna take a piece of beef and put inside there like that. Or if you're doing this for breakfast, you can do a blueberry, you can do, I said earlier a Hershey's Kiss, but I really meant like a chocolate chip. Put that in there like that. I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of the cheese we talked about earlier in there. If I can get it to turn loose in my glove. We're gonna try that on those three. And then once we've turned our last one, it'll be time to turn this one again. So this soldier died a tragic culinary death. There's a couple of them that are still questionable, but this is kind of the look that you're going for. And then you get them out and you put them on your plate, and we're gonna cover them with some cheese and drizzle them with our raspberry dressing, and we'll see what they taste like. We've got our Aebleskivers. We've got this Boursin cream, basil and chive. It's kind of like blue cheese. We really like it. They make several different ones. You could use whatever it is you want to use. But we've put that on there. We took, Heidi took this red raspberry jelly, and it's the seedless one, and we mixed it with the chipotle and adobo sauce peppers, and then we used your Who's Your Sister sauce just to make it not quite so thick. You don't really taste the sauce in there, but add as much or as little of these peppers as you want to for whatever spice level you like. Same with the Worcester sauce, just to get it to the way you want. And then what happens is you've got your little Danish pancake ball here, and we take and put this cheese, we did a couple of them where we put it inside. Inside the Aebleskiver is a little bit challenging because it's limited in space, but the idea would be that inside you have our Sierra cut steak from earlier, and then what you can do is you can just take this with the cheese. You can drizzle the sauce on it, or you can dip it. The flavor between the sweetness of the pastry and the seasoning on the steak and then the peppers and the raspberry is really, really good.